going to go ahead and get started. Sorry, this room is small. Yeah, I want to make sure you guys can hear us. So, my name is Lindsay. Welcome to Overcoming Obstacles. And I'm going to have everybody on the panel up here kind of introduce themselves and tell you about them. So, Lindsay, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Linda Allison. I am the founder and president of Allison Management Solutions. But I have worked as a business executive and manager for many, many years.
That was an understatement of this experience, just so you guys know.
My name is Holly Johnson. I'm the executive director for Holmes Center for the Arts, which is a nonprofit arts organization here in Holmes County. My background is very unique. I was a professional ballerina. There's probably nobody else in the room. That's why we're here together. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in ballet from the University of Utah. My dad was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, so I'm not from Holmes County.
Nice. My name is Nicholas Pickrell. I am president of Canado Furniture and Kingsway Services. So two different worlds there. One, we manufacture furniture. The other one, we put asphalt on the ground and do excavation. So married into Holmes County. So I'm also not from the area. Moved in about 5 years ago after we had our first child. Moved in from Western Maryland. So not East Coast Maryland, Western Maryland. So I'm not from Delaware. For some reason, everybody thinks we're from Delaware if I say Maryland. So but that's who I am.
And I'm Lindsay Chubb, and I co-own Fierce Creative Solutions with my partner Natalie here. We're a full-service marketing agency based in Holmes County, and we've been in business for a year and a half, and we've grown really quickly, so we've definitely overcome some obstacles in the last year and a half. So we're going to get started. We're just going to try to have some conversation. We will open it up at the end for questions, but if anybody has anything that you want to ask in the middle and it makes sense, feel free to put your hand up and we can include you in the conversation as we go. We want to make this as interactive as we can. So everybody can stop and make fun of Nick whenever they want. Okay, so when we were meeting to discuss, like what are obstacles, the obvious first question is, what is the biggest obstacle that you have faced either personally or professionally? And Nick had the best answer, so I'm gonna let him go first.
So we asked that question, what's the biggest obstacles I've ever faced? And my answer was myself. I firmly believe that life can be hard. And no matter how sunshine and roses it seems like, there's gonna always be obstacles in life. And it's just how you approach those obstacles that determines the outcome of them. And I was somebody very young that was shy, insecure, afraid, was like all the things that you should not be to be up here or to be, running some of these businesses. And just through the years, I had to learn to adapt and overcome those obstacles and overcome myself and my own downfalls. And just do that through leaning on teams, educating myself, and not ever letting fear win. And so that was kind of the nuance behind what's the biggest obstacle you face. I faced probably a few in my time in business, but probably the biggest one is myself.
I was actually talking to a team member about this recently because we have interactions with business owners at all different ages and just, different walks of life. And, you can achieve a fair amount of success, but we're always all still figuring it out. So the fact that we are always still our own obstacle is, I think, relevant at any stage. Linda and I have worked together quite a bit, and she's one of the most successful people, like corporately or in manufacturing that, we've probably worked with. But we're always pushing each other still to overcome obstacles, even at a level where the external world would see that as a super successful level. So do you have any tips on like what you did specifically to like work on yourself or kind of identify those obstacles, especially because you did it at a fairly early age? She says fairly early age. I've been self-employed basically since I was 12.
I had my first job when I moved out here to work for my father-in-law at Canal Dover, and within 3 years bought the place from him. And and so there's been a lot to overcome through the years, but probably the biggest thing that I've learned, and I'll put back a story, and I'll try not to get too emotional, but is I was very afraid as a young child, and I had 2 older brothers. So I got an older brother 2 years older than me, and then 4 years older than me, and they were very adventurous individuals. They were climbing and they were jumping and they were everything else. And my father was also very adventurous, and I remember climbing rock walls with him. We'd go to the state park and we could climb rock walls. So I'm from Western Maryland. We have mountains. And so we climbed these, and I remember stopping halfway up, and my dad was behind me. My 2 older brothers, they're just flying right up, and I just broke down, and I was like crying, and didn't want to move, and I was like, I'm not moving. And I remember my dad in the moments like, don't let fear stop you. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward, and that's just stuck with me ever since. To where when you find something and something hits you. Don't let fear stop you. Use it to drive you forward, not put on the brakes. And so ever since that moment, I've learned to just face fears. If you're afraid of something, jump right in and figure it out. And so there's not a whole lot of nuance to that other than put your big boy pants on and get it done. And don't let fear stop you from achieving the goals that you want to achieve, becoming the person that you want to become. One of my favorite verses is that we aren't created with a spirit of fear. And so that's for me, like I take that to pretty much every obstacle that I've ever overcome, anything that I ever, jump into. It's, hey, we can do this. We're going to keep going. We're never going to stop. No matter what, we don't quit. It might look different. You might have to shed a few things here or there. You might have to change strategy, but no matter what, you never stop and you never quit. And so that's probably the one thing that I've taken, through life to help overcome those obstacles is quitting's not an option. So work towards figuring it out. And and I've been lucky to have a lot of mentors in my life and people. I've learned to read a lot outside of I never graduated high school, so learned to read a lot outside of school and look for mentors, look for coaches, things like that to help you process through some of this stuff, to help you overcome these obstacles, because an outside perspective is amazing when you're coming up against something. So yeah, don't, just because I say don't stop, figure it out, you don't have to be the one to figure it out. You can reach outside. There's a lot of resources, especially in this community. I mean, I work with Towards the Goal Ministries for personal coaching and coaching within our organization. And it's helped a lot to unpack different things that we were running through. So yeah, 1, don't stop. 2, look outside yourself even and surround yourself with incredible people. That was a long answer.
That was like a show right there. Linda or Holly, would you guys like to add anything to what Nick said, or just a personal obstacle that you would like to share that you feel like is one of the biggest ones that you've overcome?
I would say, the Arts Center was built because of an obstacle. And so the entire Arts Center is overcoming an obstacle. And the obstacle was just that we had instructors, we had really high quality dance, music, art instructors in our county. And we saw a need, we had a desire to give more to our community. If you look at the arts world broadly, I think a lot of small communities tend to say, okay, well, sports are important, academics are important. You kind of forget about the arts world, but the most, all you have to do is turn your phone on or the TV and to realize that the arts are hugely important. Like, our kids are following artists, the musicians, the actors, the actresses. So I think a lot of small communities sort of neglect that arts world. And here I was as a non-Holmes Countyan, seeing Holmes County as my future home. And it really, when we moved here 15 years ago, I thought, well, that's it. I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to be a mom. I was excited about that. And doors just kind of opened for me to teach. The amount of students we had grew. And then we got to this point, we got to this obstacle where we said, okay, how can we give them more? How can we pour into the life of this student? And maybe this student wants to go on to be an actress or wants to be a dancer or do something in the arts world. So how can we give them the same things that they get in Cleveland or Cincinnati without saying, oh yeah, you got to go move to Cleveland? And I think it's important for small communities to, and all of us that started the Art Center thought it was really important for small communities to invest into the arts, especially into the lives of our young people, so that they could go on. Because we do want people from our small communities that have the same values of life that we do to go out into the bigger world and to be successful, just like we want them to be successful in academics and in sports and in other things. So we saw this problem and we said, okay, well, what can we do? And we could have just gone home and we could have said, I can't really do anything else. But we just incrementally, just like you said, we just jumped in and we said, well, okay, we're gonna do this. And we really didn't know the magnitude of what would happen. But we started an art center. We didn't know anything about the nonprofit world. We didn't really know a lot about business, but we dove in and we said, well, here are our gifts. Here's what we can do. Personally, I surrounded myself with people that are way smarter than me. And that was really important, to ask questions constantly along the way. I had never, written a contract. so to go to a law office, how do you do this? And so I think surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you, not being afraid to just dive in, you're going to realize more and more as you go the gifts that you do have and how you can use those for the betterment of your business and for those around you. And just do the work and realize that it's going to be hard work. We've been in business for 7 years. We have a brand new $2 million building. We serve over 500 students per year. We have about 3,000 tickets that we sell per year. So we're doing really well, but it wasn't by just sitting around going, this would be a good idea. I wish that someone would do this. You have to jump in. You have to go for it and do the work. 7 years into it, I finally have weekends where I don't open my computer. But it took 7 years. And I've got 3 kids and a husband, and those are still my greatest priority. But yeah, you've got to jump in. You have to not be afraid. And then to follow up on what he said, realizing that that we do have a creator and a God who is in control of everything. So, consulting him is a good idea because ultimately your success or your failures are going to glorify him. He's the one that is going to control what happens.
So I have a little different story because I wasn't in an individual business like you guys. And I don't know why, but in my whole life, I have never picked the easy path. It's just not in my nature. So when I was a young woman, and we're talking in the mid-1980s, I started to work in manufacturing out on the shop floor. After graduating college, I went right onto the shop floor. And it was not exactly a welcoming environment to women in the moment. And there was a lot of testing, and there was a lot of learning. And people that didn't want me there, honestly. And so overcoming that was a challenge, right? But what I did was I just focused really hard on being, as Nick labeled me the other day, undeniable. So I was going to be the best. I was going to have the best performance. I was going to be the most qualified. I was going to be undeterred by people that were literally harassing me every day on the job, and I was just going to be undeniable. And so that is the way that I overcame it. And honestly, that was a theme through my whole career. And when I was promoted to or took a job at a higher level in a big corporation, it really wasn't any different than walking out of that shop floor the first day. People expected you to perform. They weren't going to necessarily help you along with that. Again, I was the only woman. And it was a culture that was very, male culture is different than female culture to some extent. And it was just very, very challenging. And really it was just work hard and be excellent. And do not let people that are going to tell you that you can't do it, don't listen to them, right? And I want to jump into the next question because I have. Okay, so here's what I learned over time: run to the challenge, right? Run to the obstacle, because what you figure out over time is that obstacle takes you to the next level, right? And so almost when you see that thing you don't know, that's what you want to go after. Don't run away from that. So when I call it being pulled through the knothole, and it is difficult and painful in the moment, right? And you are like, I don't know if I can get up today and go through this again, but do it. You do it, and when you get through the knothole, the other side of the fence, you're different. You're in a different shape, right? You are more capable. You have the ability to do things you couldn't do before you went through that experience, and you have a completely new perspective about who you are, what the world looks like. And so over time, I'm like, struggling with that, let's go pay attention.
That's really good.
Yeah, and I guess to expound on that is, I just saw a video of an artist that did this expression of life. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, where he's on the stairs and there's a trampoline beside him. And he's trying to walk up the stairs, falls down, comes back up 2 stairs down, walks up the stairs, falls down. And it's just like this 1 minute of just falling down, getting back up, falling down. He reaches the top, falls back down, and then there's chaos, and then he gets back up. And it's just, I related that because I look at life. I said, life is like stairs. Okay, you're going to go through moments when you're climbing. You're going to go through moments when it's flat. You're going to go through moments when you just hit a wall, and you're going to have to do things differently to get over that wall. Sometimes you have to break through it, and might fall. But so you look at life like stairs. Like these moments of adversity, they make you who you are, and the expression of life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. The things that you're going through, the adversity you're going through, the struggles you're going through, those are forging you to be the next person that you're supposed to be. I can relate it back to Scripture, where it's interesting in, you read through Scripture, and those that are the oppressed in the Bible, Jesus never says to pray that they would be out of it, but pray that they would endure it. Because it's that endurance, it's that forging of the fire through oppression, and this is in the spiritual world, in Scripture. But that is forging them for the reward. That is forging them to be the believer that they're supposed to be. And I think life is very much in parallel with that, both in our spiritual walk, but in our professional walk, where we have to go through these struggles. And if you think you're going to get in business, or you think you're going to go through life without going through these struggles, you're going to be sadly disappointed. There's a lot of tools that we can use to make them easier, but understanding like it's going to be difficult, but when I get to the other end, I'm going to be better for it, and I'm going to be able to handle it. I've gone through seasons of life where you just keep elevating. The numbers get bigger, the people get bigger, the team gets bigger, the problems get bigger. But I look back at the problems that I used to think were monumental now, and you don't even feel it. It's like, oh, okay, well, we've dealt with that. Just do this on to the next one. And then you come up to the day where it's just like, boom, that hit hard. It's like, well, we just got to work our way through it. So that's very much in parallel. And thanks for including that in there. Where it's like, Linda had, we were talking, and she's like, I was just a woman in corporate America. I don't know how that's going to relate here.
Yeah.
And I said, Linda, it applies tremendously, because the one thing you had to do was be undeniable. Yeah. And
thank you for that.
because when you're a woman in corporate America in 1980, 1990, it's difficult.
I wish we could paint the picture on like a TV screen, like
Yeah.
the perms and the suits and all that.
Yeah, the pantyhose. The pantyhose was
And then to get to her point where, you know, I've talked with her and she's like, I'm doing everything that the executive vice president should be doing. Why don't I have that title?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, and you know, and having that story, it's like, I should be in the room. And they was like, yeah, you're right. They couldn't deny the fact because she was.
Once you got in the room, did you ever struggle with your own personal sort of, you know, like we all have our own identity challenges with that, or did you feel like you had done the work on yourself personally?
Absolutely, because you relate different. You are still different. You know, I mean, just the way I talked, the way I related to things, the things I thought were important, is different than men are. Now, I think the world is becoming more acknowledging that difference is important. But it wasn't necessarily like that when I was kind of coming up. And so you are struggling to be like them, but you're not, right? So you aren't exactly like them. So I always said I felt like, you know, I was doing the job, I was performing, I got results, and I built a great team, and I was very proud of that, and I loved it every day. But I always felt a little bit like a zebra with horses, you know. So I think you have to get comfortable with uncomfortable sometimes. Sometimes it's, you know, when nothing. And I tell this story sometimes about zebras with horses, and everybody relates to that. So maybe I wasn't that special. Maybe we always feel just a little out of joint, and I think you just have to get comfortable with that. But yeah, it was definitely not always comfortable. But at some point, you're like, look, I'm just going to perform. You know, I'm just going to be undeniable. And whatever
That's not
that
our phrase forever, just so you know.
Yeah, I like that one.
Send me a chick.
So my next question then would be, you know, you guys all have good practices with overcoming obstacles. What do you do, and Ryan referenced this in the beginning session today, when you have people around you who, like you're leading teams or you're working with business owners, how do you lead or help encourage the people around you through the obstacles? Maybe you want to go, Nick, but you've got 50 people behind you need to drag with you. So what are your thoughts behind that?
I got some of my team here today, so maybe they can relate to that. But how do you drag people along? Well, you can't really drag people along. You know, they're not horses. You can't just whip them out of shape. You know, if you're trying to bring your team along, is you have to be good at casting that vision and figuring out that why. You know, why are we wanting to grow? Like Brian said, what's the reason for growth? And you know, what's the reason for going this direction instead of this direction? This seems a lot easier. It's like, yeah, I know that's easier, but this in 5 years makes a lot more sense. And so trying to explain that why. Why are we doing this? Why are we changing things? Why are we constantly improving? Why are we striving for this? So it comes down to a lot of that communication. You know, you are not going to drag your team anywhere. You know, the only chance you have is leading your team to where they need to go and to where you want your organization to go. Sometimes we do it right. Sometimes you have days and it's like, well, yeah, that was a fail. Everybody's like, why didn't that work? And it's like, well, you know, you didn't lead well, you know, and take accountability for that. To where if it's not working, you know, take that ownership. Say there's something wrong, and it's either my message to them or the person leading it. They haven't been coached. They don't have the information. There's always a reason. It's not just because your idea was a bad one, or the direction you want to go is a bad one, or the obstacle you're trying to overcome is impossible. That's not normally the case. It's just look at yourself, look at your team, and figure, okay, why is it working, and how do we overcome that? So.
And I think you need to encourage individuals through it. First of all, if they're struggling through something, a lot of times they get fixated on the problem, and it's good to kind of pull them up a level and talk to, and the why is one way of saying it, to the values, their own values about why they want to overcome this. And so sometimes that helps break them loose from just fixating on the problem. And I think one of the most important things leaders can do for the people on their team, I'm looking around the room because I'm moving, is reflect their own value back to them. I mean, help them see them like you see them and the value that they have, who they are as an individual, and make sure that they can see how valuable that they are and the things that they contribute. And once they feel that, they gain confidence, I think, from it. So I think helping them get confidence too.
I think also excitement is contagious. And so I'm going to take off my executive director hat and talk about teaching ballet. I don't know if any of you have seen a ballet class, but we start them out an hour. You stand at a ballet bar for 30 minutes of that hour, working basically the equivalent of like push-ups and sit-up kind of things. It's not the fun stuff. And then we come to the center and we do a little bit more exercise. And it's not until like the last 15 minutes of class that we do the fun stuff where they get to really, really dance. And so that's tough in this day and age, teaching little girls age 8 to stand still for an hour and then making them love it enough that they want to do it next year. And then love it enough that the next year they do 2 classes a week and then 3 classes. And then suddenly their whole world is ballet. So learning how to do that has taught me how to be an executive director. Because if I can convince a group of 5 and 6-year-olds that ballet is the best thing on earth, then I can convince people to give to an art center in Holmes County. So if you are excited and you love what you do, then it's contagious. Your employees are gonna get excited when you're like, here's what we can do with the arts. So I really think that's an important aspect. So whether you're a banker or a lawyer, you've got to have this message and this attitude, even if you don't feel it that day, of excitement. Sometimes when I come in to teach ballet, I don't really want to be there. And I'm not, I've had a bad day and I don't want to teach, but I know that if I have that attitude, the class is going to be horrible. So instead, I look at my class and I say, okay, guys, we're going to take everything that we're thinking. We're going to take what Sarah said to us at school that was really mean, and we're going to ball it up and we're going to throw it out the door, and we're going to focus on what we're doing right now, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to grow. And even if we mess up in our steps, we're going to keep moving forward. And so that's what I teach in my ballet class, and then I bring that into the office. So some excitement.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that's a really great point. As a leader, you don't get the luxury of having your own bad day, right? You have to step it up, and you have to think about how you're affecting people around you, and you just don't get the luxury of bringing everybody down. You have to overcome that.
Yeah, it's easy to convince the world that it's awful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can do that. My 13-year-old daughter can do that when she gets in the car. But to convince everybody that they have purpose, and they have purpose in this office today, and here's what we're going to do today, and here's how it impacts this office, and here's how it impacts your family, and here's how we can impact the world even. So just looking at the bigger picture and teaching your employees to do that as well.
Now I was going to relate back to, all this time about opening a dance center and art center in Holmes County. And when we were on our podcast, it was like, one of my favorite jokes is, what's the biggest conundrum for Mennonites? Free dance lessons. To come into Holmes County and say, I want to open a dance center, everybody say, our hips are jointed, okay? They are locked. They don't move. No.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask anybody up here? And we'll be heading to lunch here in a few minutes. But Nick would love to answer every question. So would Linda and Holly. Yeah. Nothing. Do you guys have any closing remarks you'd like to give? A final hurrah?
I think one of the last questions that we talked about was, with all the uncertainty in the world, how do people lead through that over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever that's going to be? And I kind of want to touch a little bit that because it is affecting all of us. You know, we hear negativity everywhere. We hear uncertainty everywhere. And I remember leading our team through COVID, which, you know, we were in manufacturing, and it was like, I went into it and I was like, we were just very honest with everybody and said, this is going to go two ways. You know, we sell furniture. So either one, people are going to hide in their houses and not spend any money. And, you know, in 3 months, we might be out of work, but we're going to take every day as we can. I was just very honest and said, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to work together. We're going to solve this problem together. Or I said, they're going to get in their house and really hate the couch they have, the bed they have, and they're going to go crazy the other way. And luckily, it was the other way. That spurred a lot of its own challenges. But as we go into this time of uncertainty, leading with purpose and intentionality, you know, you don't have to have all the answers, but leading honestly and say, hey, I don't know that, I don't have the answers for tomorrow, but I know I'm going to show up every day and we're going to take the day on. You know, I don't have the answers for next month, but we're going to show up today and we're going to take the day on. And we're going to win today the best that we can. We're going to win tomorrow the best that we can. We're going to show up. You know, start shrinking your horizon of chaos and take on the bite that your team can take on. You know, in depression, a lot of people that struggle with that is they can't plan their life out. As people get depressed, like the world is just too big. I don't even know how to get out of bed. And the way they solve that is you shrink your time horizon down. It's like sometimes you have to shrink it down to 5 minutes. You're not thinking a 5-year picture. You ask your team, hey, what do you know in 5 years? I don't know, because apparently the news says the world's going to the end here in 3 months. You know, and it's like, so what am I worried? And so you have to shrink your time horizon down. So as we go into this season, and we've come out of a season of chaos, it seems like we're going into another one. But just lead with certainty and honesty. You know, you can be the duck who's strong on the top, paddling like crazy on the bottom. But just be honest with your team and say, this is where I think we're going to go. This is what I see. So we're going to go that way. If we need to adjust, we'll adjust. But no matter what, we're going to do it together, and we're going to fight together. So I know that was a question on the docket. I was like, well, I want to touch on that because it does feel like we're in times where it just feels like chaos. And, you know, good thing, just turn the news off, go do your day, kill your day, and be done with it. So.
I boycotted the news a long time ago. I would say personally, guys, I didn't share that much. That would be like, I mean, we are big. Natalie and I connected a long time ago on goal setting. It's something we've always loved. So we definitely set goals, and we're thinking about that. We've had a lot of goals that we've blown way out of the water, and then we have to quickly pivot and say, well, we hit something way sooner than we thought we would. But the reality is, like, breaking it down into smaller chunks has been key for me. You know, it's key in a lot of different areas. I'm a runner as well, and like sometimes all you can think about is the next step. And like mentally, that's all you can really focus on is just go that far. So thank you for being here and taking a listen with us. And thank you guys for participating and giving us some good feedback. So we're going to head right down to lunch. So you can go down the hallway, turn left, go down the steps, and we'll be in there for the next portion. And there's bathrooms out in the lobby if you guys need that.